Hey guys, Steven here, aka the Boiler Master, with another DD video for you on IQST. We got a couple of bombshell PRs this week. It's kind of funny though, because I don't think a lot of people realize just how important this information was. The PRs themselves were good, but the SEC filings had a ton of good information in them. I'm not sure how many people even realize how to find these SEC filings, but I do and I take the time to read them. So I'm going to share some of the big highlights for you guys. Just remember, I'm not a financial advisor though. Just a guy that likes drinking coffee, doing DD, and I'm going to share some of my information with you. So the first PR we got was on February 6th. Says IQSTEL booked 17 million in revenue for the month of January. That is a record-breaking month for them guys. So 17 million in revenue for the month of January based on preliminary accounting. Gross profit for January also increased over gross profit for December as the company continues to improve its operating margins. And this revenue does not include any benefit from the recently announced acquisition of QXTEL. So good news there is that they're clearly continuing to grow, but also, if you remember, they became profitable in Q3 last year. They told us that Q4 gross margins did improve, and now they're telling us that January is continuing to improve over what they even did in December. So everything sounds to be going really good. I'm continuing on in that PR. A few words from the CEO, and he even says that now with this January 2024 revenue, we will far exceed even our previous extraordinary expectations for the next 12 months. It's just going really, really damn good. So further down, he basically reiterates what they've said before. After the acquisition, they're looking at doing about $700,000 in revenue per day, 160,000 gross margin per week, 60,000 operating income per week from the telecom division. And then it's got links to the shareholder meeting videos, slides, all of that stuff. So I'm not going to get a lot into the charts and projecting out this year's numbers. We know they're growing like wild. It's crazy. Everything's just exploding. But I do want to take a quick minute and emphasize 17 million for January alone. If we just assume they're going to do 17 million for February and March, no additional growth, just 17 million, that puts them at $51 million for Q1. 42.8 million in Q4. So quarter over quarter, that'd be 19% growth. And this is before anything from QXTEL. So the second PR we got was on February 8th. It says IQSTEL publishes pro forma financial statement in conjunction with QXTEL acquisition. This is referred to as a Super 8K. The intention of it is to show investors what the combined financials look like with the two companies. So the last filing that IQST has is Q3. So it shows January 1st until September 30th last year what the financials look like with IQST and QXTEL if they had already been one company. So the PR covers a couple of highlights, but like I said, the actual filing with the SEC goes into all of the financial details for us. But we'll cover the PR real quick. It says total assets increased from 18.1 million to 30.3 million. Stockholders' equity increased from 7.9 million to 9.2 million. Net revenues increased from 97.2 million to 156.9 million. Gross profit increased from 3 million to 6.1 million. And QXTEL contributed 980,000 in operating income and 780,000 in net income. So that's pretty good. In the filings, like I said, there's a lot of information. I want to cover a little bit about QXTEL that was shared before we get into the financial comparisons with them and IQST. One of the things that really stood out to me was section on major customer and suppliers. So it says the company had one major customer representing approximately 11% of revenues during the year ended December 31st, 2022. What's important to me about that is QXTEL, 11% of their business comes from one customer. That's the biggest customer they have. That's a really good thing to know because when you're doing business with people like Verizon, T-Mobile, guys like that, you don't want to have 50, 60, 80% of your revenue all coming from one company. If something goes wrong there, you lose a contract or something, you lose 60% of your business just because of one relationship. So there's a lot of risk in those situations. So their largest customer only being 11% of their 80 million revenue is a really good sign. It just means that there's a lot less risk involved. Some other good information about QXTEL. It says the principal activity of the company is the provision of international telecommunications traffic, offering both wholesale voice and retail services. In 2022, the company also began to offer retail and wholesale A2P SMS services. So I'm going to talk more about those SMS services in a minute, but I also wanted to highlight here both wholesale and retail services. So IQST is wholesale telecom. I don't think they have really any retail services, to be honest with you. QXTEL offering retail services is really going to ramp that up with IQST. They cross sell, they learn from all their subsidiaries and work together. And I imagine IQST in the future is going to be doing a lot more retail services if this is a big part of QXTEL's business. So that could be a major opportunity when it comes to cross selling and just synergies between the subsidiaries. As we get into some of the numbers in the filings, you're going to see that it's not just revenue growth. These numbers tell us a story. They answer questions about QXTEL for us. So, for example, you're going to see here that revenue for QXTEL in 2021 was 82.5 million. Revenue in 2022 was 81.5 million. And right now they're just telling us that QXTEL is expected to add over 80 million in revenue. So that's one of my thoughts that I was happy to see confirmed, is that QXTEL, it's been in business for 20 years. They're doing around 80 million in revenue. And why are they partnering with IQST? Well, I figured they're a more mature company. They've probably kind of plateaued with growth, and they're looking at IQST growing 50% plus a year, and they want some of what IQST's got. And we can see right here, that's exactly the case. They've kind of been stagnant on their growth. So partnering with IQST is a really good move because they're going to help grow the company. Another thing to point out here that's really exciting to me is 2021, the revenue was all voice services. 2022, 1.4 million of the revenue came from SMS services. That is really, really good to see because IQST has told us before. I've looked for the PR, I can't find it, but they told us one of their main driving factors for growth was increasing services for SMS. If that's a market that QXTEL literally just got into as SMS services and made their first 1.4 million from it in 2022, just fucking wait until they're cross-selling with IQST. That SMS service is going to explode. So those are the details I'd love to find in these filings, guys. SMS services, cross-selling, the retail customers cross-selling. This is truly going to be huge. Continuing on, we see that revenue did go down 2022 over 2021, but their gross profit stayed the same. Basically, they improved on their margins. They actually went from 3.869 million to 3.882 million in gross profit. Net income was about the same as well, 1.3 million, 1.3 million, and their net income for QXTEL is just over $1 million a year. So that's going to be another million in net income on IQST's balance sheet going forward. What's really cool is it shows us the 2022 revenue for IQST and QXTEL side by side, and man, I just can't express how exciting it is just comparing these two numbers together. So we were told in the shareholders meeting that they started discussions on this and talking with QXTEL 14 months ago. So that'd be November of 2022. If you look at their 2022 revenue, these companies were the same. IQST didn't even know they were doing 93 million that year yet, and QXTEL was doing over 80 million. So these companies were side by side, the exact same size. This is more of a merger than an acquisition. It's a partnership. The two are combining together, teaming up to bring some of IQST's phenomenal growth into QXTEL's customer base. It's the perfect combination, bringing these two companies together. So another thing I want to cover from the 8K filing is I always care about the cash position. So as of September 30th last year, the end of Q3, IQST had 2 million in cash. QXTEL had 1.2 million in cash. There's some adjustments in there, but it brings their combined cash position to 3.7 million. I also look at the accounts receivable and accounts payable. Combined accounts receivable was 14 million. Accounts payable was 8.9 million. In simple terms, that means that they've invoiced $14 million worth of work and haven't been paid yet. A lot of customers, they don't pay for 30 days, 60 days, 120 days, but it's $14 million worth of payments they are going to collect. So what's really good about that is it's access to capital. You can hound these vendors and get those invoices paid sooner and get more cash on the balance sheet. Or if you really just need access to capital today, you open a line of credit with the bank. Basically, the bank looks at your financials and says, yeah, you've got 14 million in accounts receivable. You're going to invoice, get paid for that in the next 30, 60 days. The bank will buy your accounts receivable, give you a couple million in cash now, and then when your vendors, your customers pay, they pay it to the bank, and the bank keeps 1% of it. It's access to capital. So having $14 million in accounts receivable is a really good sign. It tells me that their cash position is not just 3.6 million, but they have access to millions of dollars today if they need it. Because accounts receivable is about $5 million more than accounts payable, but it's also not an excessive amount. Their combined revenue for this period, 14 million would be a month and a half maybe of revenue. So they're not having problems collecting, but that money's there that they do have access to. So that's the basic updates from this week's PRs. I have updated a lot of charts, but I'm not going to throw them in this video. It'll be too long. And you guys tell me what you want to see. I'm getting a lot of requests, especially from guys like Shane that are just dying to know where I truly think this company's headed and when I think they're going to hit the $1 billion mark. I only throw out really conservative charts and projections backed by hard numbers. I don't get too aggressive. I don't want to be considered a pumper or anything like that. But if you guys want to know my honest opinion where it's headed, some more aggressive growth projections, let me know in the comments. If you guys want to see it, I'll do it. But Shane, man, I just don't think Shane's ready for that yet. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just remember, I've got some other ones where I do a lot more DD. And if you're not in the ambassadors group for IQST on Facebook, join it. That's where we talk a lot more in depth, answer a lot of questions, and do research together. So I hope I see some of you guys there. And like I said, just remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Everything I said here is just an overview of some of the filings. You guys really need to read them yourself. Verify anything I said. Just don't invest based on my opinions, because that's all it is a personal opinion. And share on some thoughts while I'm drinking some coffee. Thanks, guys.